Good
Welcome
evening,
to
ladies.
MOBE Monday.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Curtis Simons, chairperson for MOBE, and we're excited to have another great MOBE Monday month. And what's even exciting is the fact that this is the last one for the end of the month, and we're very excited about our series on Women's History Month, which if you've been paying attention to us this month, we've had some excellent panels. But tonight's panel is Women in Tech. And if you're looking at what's going on in the world today, technology is the move. And we've got a powerful, powerful panel that we are going to unleash tonight. And before we do that, I would like to introduce our moderator. And our moderator tonight is Donnie Holloway. Donnie works at Bloomberg News World Headquarters in New York, where he creates multi-platform content that focuses on some of the biggest financial stories affecting global markets. He has reported and anchored across the country and traveled abroad to study media trends in China. Donnie is a proud graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which I'm not going to hold that against him because I'm a
Go Tar Heels.
But I love Chapel Hill. There's no question. But now I'd like to turn it over to Donnie and Mr. Steven Penner. Donnie, congratulations and have a great show tonight.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Curtis, for that wonderful introduction. Really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Donnie Holloway here in New York City. It is so great to be with you, joining on this rockstar panel today, and to have all of you joining us from around the country. My job here tonight is really to facilitate a lively, engaging, and hopefully very informative conversation. Really looking forward to delivering as much value as possible to the audience from all of our illustrious panelists' expertise and insight. And as we wrap up Women's History Month, I can't think of a more apropos panel to have and any better guests to have than who we have tonight. Some really, and did I say really smart women that we have on the panel tonight. You're going to want to take notes on this because they have a lot to share. They are the truth. They are the top of their fields. And we've really got some of the best today. So really looking forward to a really meaningful panel and excited to orchestrate what I hope will be a very meaningful panel to each of you. And their bios and resumes, they could really go on for this whole hour. So I'll go ahead and just keep it pretty brief. And, I always say ladies first, but we've got a number of ladies, wonderful ladies tonight. So I'll go ahead and do it in alphabetical order just so that we can keep that format. So first off, Angela Valentine, she's the founder of ADV Scholars. That's the Academy of Digital Visionaries and Scholars. Its goal is really to help bridge and build a gap between people to build global future-facing competencies and skill sets. She's got an MBA from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and she's joining us tonight from Chicago. We've also got Deena Pierott. She is founder of iUrban Teen, and she's a founding member of Black Women in STEM 2.0. iUrban Teen is a nationally recognized program focusing on bringing STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education to youth of color, ages 13 to 18. She's been acknowledged by former President Obama as a White House champion of change for technology and inclusion. She's joining us from Seattle. And then we also have, last but not least, Joyce Burges. She's the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of National Black Home Educators. It's a member-supported homeschooling organization really focusing on transforming education and families through homeschooling. So that's been founded in 2000, and since then it's grown to have an international footprint. She's joining us this evening from Louisiana. So as I said, we have an amazing lineup. I want to go ahead and start from a 30,000 foot view, and then we'll drill in and go a little bit deeper throughout the night. Starting with you, Angela, first off, what has the past year been like for you? What a time for being in the digital space.
What a time. Exactly. I couldn't have said it any better. The past year has been interesting in that we've all had to shift, right? And pivot. I know people are just tired of that word, but with everything, coming home and us doing distance learning and remote working and all, we've had to just adjust on a dime. And with me being in the tech space, I can't say that I saw this coming, but I was hoping that we'd be a little bit more prepared for this time that I always saw coming down the pike. So it's been an exciting time as well, because I feel like now all of the time that I've been preaching about technology and us needing to learn these skills. When the pandemic came, then it just kind of brought everything to light. So it's been an exciting time for me as well.
That is so true. It has been bringing a lot of things to light. So next to Deena, what's your world been like? And what's one of the biggest lessons that we've learned over the past year as it relates to STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics?
Well, the year was an interesting year for us. Luckily, we were able to shift gears and create a ton of content, right when the pandemic hit. So we've been doing very well. However, I never really wanted online because I wanted our youth to be able to meet together, to collaborate live, to brainstorm off of each other in a live presence. So I was forced to create a lot of online content. Now, the other part of the year, this was a turning point for a lot of reasons, but we never really got the support that we truly needed in this program, even though we've served over 9,000 youth. But because of all of the issues that came about with the murder of George Floyd, we started getting a lot of support. I was overwhelmed with how many people and organizations and companies came forward to support iUrban Teen, because we have an intentional reach to male youth of color. We have girls in the program. So it was kind of a bittersweet blessing. It was a shame that had to occur for people to support us. So we've had a year of building with the digital space and support that I had not seen coming.
We'll get back more to that support point, but yeah, definitely has been a year filled with a lot of reckoning and hyper focus on a lot of issues that have been going on for quite some time. Now, Joyce, what's your past year been like? I mean, talk about what a year for homeschooling.
Thank you for allowing the opportunity to be on the show. It has really been a good year. It's always been my desire, as well as the desire of my husband, is to see families for families to know that they are on the front lines, for parents to know that they are on the front lines of their children's education. Parents have a vested interest in their child's education, for good or for bad. And so we've seen families grow by at least 1,000% all across this country, where parents are seeing the need to get back involved in their children's education, whether they chose to homeschool or now that they're doing virtual or distance learning. We've just seen parents just come to the front line. And although that's been kind of scary sometimes, for some parents, but, they have been champions. They've had the courage, they've seen the need, and they've just gotten on board to do what they need to do to make sure that their children receive the best education possible. So, the National Black Home Educators, we've just been very excited, and, we're here for parents. We want them to know that we love them, that they are on the front lines of their children's education, and we are here for the long haul.
Thanks so much for that, Joyce. And now, one of the things that I heard, a common thread between all of the comments that you all shared, was that everyone has had to pivot. Everyone has really had to figure out, how do we make sense of this new normal? And going on the topic of our panel, which is winning in the age of digital learning from the classroom to the workplace, what are some strategies for going from the classroom to the workplace? Because it's great to get the education, but then how do you take that and then create an opportunity from it? Anybody?
Well, I'll just jump in there and say it's important that we have our ear to the ground. Technology is moving so swiftly. And as parents, if you've got young kids in school, just understanding and being in tune with your classroom to see if they're implementing technology in the classroom and follow through with that. Even as you're graduating, there is some neat little certifications that are available now, even through, I'm a Google for Education certified trainer. So there are things that the tech companies are incorporating for kids, and just to make sure that we're in tune with those kinds of things and those opportunities as they're coming through elementary and middle school and high school. That's one point.
Sure. And a follow-up to that, Joyce. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback on what Angela said. We have learning pods that are available now for parents. There's support groups out there. There are online academies, online curriculum schools that are out there for parents. When I started homeschooling 30 some years ago with 5 children, we didn't have all of this. And now I see all of this online, where parents are teaming together in pods and they're learning. We're excited about G Suite for workspace, for education, and how they've come on board to just assist parents with information and complementary resources to help them to educate their children for excellence.
Yeah. I want to add in there, for us, it's easy because we're family centered. So you might come to our event, you might see grandparents there, parents, aunt, uncle, big brother, cousin, somebody's there supporting that child. And so the families are learning right along with the students. And I do that intentionally so that they can keep the conversations going on at home. You honor the family by inviting them in. So you might have a parent learning right next to their child on learning how to code, learning GIS mapping, learning cybersecurity. It's all intentional. We've had some parents that have gone back to college to learn more of that skill set. So for us, it's easy. It's always been the families have been there and have been at the center and core of everything that we do.
Thanks so much for that point, Deena. And Joyce, following up on something that you mentioned, so having more people engaging in homeschooling nowadays, how do you bridge the gap where people find that sometimes with being at home, maybe they don't get the opportunities for the in-person network, and then we find ourselves in the middle of a pandemic? How do people homeschool and still get those opportunities to really connect in a way that in-person allows?
Well, for years and years, homeschooling has been where we've had co-ops and we've had support groups. But, thank God for Zoom and Google Meet and opportunities like that, to where, we created, the National Black Home Educators created what they call the Nurturing Series. And that Nurturing Series was all about PATH, which is Parents at Home. Parents as teachers at home. And we also did the Hour of Code, wherein we invited children on Zoom or Google Meet to where they actually had that somewhat of a virtual in-person experience. And, where we could pretty much touch each other and learn just a little bit about, some of the things that we're interested in. That could be art, it could be music, it could be learning to code. And we were all able to come together digitally to make that happen. So, and then once again, like the learning pods, and even still with everything that's gone on, we were not where we couldn't meet maybe 1 or 2 families or 2 or 3 families together, to where we still had that personable learning experience. And then if you're like me, you have a whole lot of children. So, it's still kind of personal with about 4 or 5 kids, and you keep learning together.
Certainly, I think that resonates with a lot of our viewers. And on that note of our viewers, really encourage you to submit your questions in the chat so we can fold them into the conversation as we go throughout the evening. Now, Deena, something that Joyce mentioned, she talked about STEM learn that hyper focus on technology. So one of the things that I saw in my notes is that a focus, especially for people of color, definitely learning more about those STEM fields, and that can create more opportunities. So what are some ways that people can get involved more so in order to have those STEM skills, and how important is that?
It's very important because everything that we do, every organization has some type of technology focus, or even healthcare. For us, our STEM is sciences, which includes environmental and health sciences. The T is for technology, the E is for engineering, and the M for us is for manufacturing, not math, because math is interwoven in everything anyway. And a lot of times, the manufacturing sector is often overlooked, where we have a program on advanced manufacturing and supply chain, which with robotics is a STEM career as well. So the thing is that I would suggest for families to get your students early on in elementary school, even though we focus on middle school and high school, but in elementary school, in kindergarten, get them interested and involved in some easy, basic STEM related exercises and things that they're doing, even using those big wooden blocks to build something, right? I think that we historically, as Black folk, have been STEM experts for as long as we can imagine, right? Look at the Egyptians when they built the pyramids. So we go way back. We have a long lineage in this space. We just need to make sure that we're claiming our stake in it.
Certainly. And as we claim our stake in it, one of the things, Angela, I know that you really focus on bridging the divide within tech. So what advice would you give for someone in terms of how to make a place more diverse, inclusive, and have a more equitable playing field?
Wow. I think we need to really focus on working together as a community, whatever that space is that needs to be more inclusive. I come from a corporate background where, there was always this big launch and this big program and this big initiative and something behind that driving that initiative. And then when we met the goal, kind of fade off into the sunset. Everyone would go back to their respective corners and, life is normal. And I think we just need to follow through with that commitment and make sure that we've got our kids prepared, our young adults prepared for opportunities in that pipeline. I'm a firm believer that it's going to take more than just the school system. It's going to take our communities. It's going to take our youth groups, our churches, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, whomever can support our kids outside of the school system to be on board with that. And everyone can take a piece of that and make sure that our kids are equipped to be in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. And on that note of helping to make sure that our kids are equipped to be in those spaces, we saw a lot of focus over the past year on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think a lot of concern for a lot of our viewers was, how do we make this more than just a moment? How do we make sure that we keep the momentum up? What are some strategies for that? And are we making progress, or do you think there's been some regression? Where do you see the timeline or the state of affairs?
I think, because my other hat is I'm a DEI consultant, I feel that there has been some progress. The clients that I'm working with right now, they intentionally want to make a change. And so, but it's a two-way street though. They may be wanting to make a change, but we also have to equip this next generation on how do you show up in those spaces being authentically who you are, and how do you have your voice heard and be a part of the system, and not how it has been in the past where we've been overlooked. You have to know how to advocate for yourself. And that's some of the things that we teach our youth is, how do you advocate for yourself in spaces where you're the only one that looks like you in that space. And also not being afraid to speak up and make these changes stick, right? I think now is a good time for a lot of our folks, because of what's happened over the past year, to really get in there and start making some inroads on keeping these companies abreast on the changes that need to happen.
And on that note of the changes that need to happen, what do you feel is the most profound change that you've seen?
The most profound change is when I've noticed, what I've noticed is, like with one of my clients is the global tech company. And when I first met with them, and they had an internal core of employees that really want to make some changes. And so I walk them through, how do you review all of your internal processes with an equity lens? What does that look like? But that first meeting, it was about 42 people. Now that 40 were white men who instinctively I could feel it, I can sense it. They want to make some changes happen, because they themselves, like they tell me, want to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I see more white men actively getting on this bandwagon and wanting to make a change and then be inclusive with the change, as well. It's not their decision only to make these changes. They have to bring diverse voices into the table to be included on making these changes. That's one of the changes that I've seen. I have seen CEOs be more invested in these changes and allowing their employees to craft what they would like to see happen within their organization. I have seen our younger folks not being afraid to walk into spaces and be who they are and not code switch, which is something that I really strongly talk against, code switching.
And break
So
that down. I know what it means, but for everyone, what is code switching?
code switching is when you feel that you have to go into a second self, I call it. A second self on being someone who you feel can assimilate into a white space, right? And everything is so white centered that it's hard not to. And a lot of times people feel, and it's true in a lot of cases, and I hope, and I see a change happening here as well, that they have to assimilate to be able to move forward. Now I'm seeing a shift where younger folk are being able to be themselves in the workplace and not have to wear that shield or that mask.
Definitely. And what you said, go ahead.
No, it was me.
Oh, sure. Joyce, go ahead and chime in.
No, I was just going to say, I have a 25-year-old daughter, and just like our guest was saying, that the young people do not feel that they have to shift, nor do they necessarily feel that they have to teach you how to deal with, what some of the changes now. And basically one of the things she has encouraged me to do, and that is where African American curriculum is concerned, because 30-something years ago, you only knew about the five: Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, and on and on. But there's so much content out there about African Americans that has changed where homeschooling is concerned, because what parents want now is diversity in history. We want to know if there's a Mozart out there, then there's got to be a classical composer that's of African American descent. And these are some of the things that the National Black Home Educators, we are creating that new content to be integrated in with the normal curriculum or the mainstream curriculum out there, simply because our children need to know their heroes. They need to know who inspires them. They need to know the giants whose shoulders we stand on. And so one of the things on Saturdays that I have seen with teaching young girls and young boys, we are finding where these children are actually teaching us. Because as a homeschool mom, one thing I've learned is that your children will tell you how to teach them. They will tell you what they want to learn. And so as they're talking and they're, saying, well, hey, we want to learn about coding. We want to learn about some of the African American heroes that we just don't learn about in your mainstream curriculum publishers out there. So those are some of the changes that we've seen over, everything that's gone on, that we have to create our own African American curriculum. And those are some of the things that we've done and continuing to do.
Certainly, and as we create that curriculum and then prepare people to go into the workplace, one of the things that came up on our pre-webinar call, we talked about ageism and how a lot of times there's a divide between younger generation, millennial, Gen Z, and maybe some more seasoned folks. So how do we bridge that gap and create more collaborative environments where it's not so much set up on competition and, that mindset of an older generation being stuck in their ways and then the younger generation maybe not having enough experience? How do we collaborate more for anyone?
Collaborate more. When you pose that question, okay, I'm thinking, do I answer that or do I say what? So the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about and mentioning ageism, I'm always, because, I may have had a little bit of experience where I've been told a lot of times that you're overqualified or you're this or you're that. And I really know what the deal is because I have an HR background as well. But I think showing up as your true, authentic, best self, right? And having the skills, coming prepared and knowing your craft. And I would think that if I meet a candidate that is really on top of their game, they can really express how they can be a benefit to this organization, then age to me would not matter. I'm like, you're the person I want. I love your drive. I love that you're prepared. I love that you would be a wonderful asset to this company, yada, yada. So I think, if we just come and show up, let your best self lead the way. right? And not maybe by the time you have that conversation or finish that conversation with that interviewer, then they don't see your age anymore. They don't see your youth. They don't see that you're, a mature adult. They hear that you're qualified and you're the person for the job. So that's the first thing that I thought about when you mentioned that.
Mhm.
Certainly.
I think that looking at bridging this divide, in fact, I have an article coming out on this, because there's so often there's folks in my age group, I call them old heads, that I'm young thinking, okay, I always have been, but there's so many in my age group that don't want to relinquish this power that they think they have, and they fought so hard to have this power, and this dictatorship type of thing. It's not your turn yet. Well, I think even in this equity space that I'm working in, I tell people it's time to pass the baton. It's this young generation, it's their future. They need to be leading some of these efforts. Their voices need to be heard, but they can't forget the shoulders they're standing on at the same time. So there's that collaboration. It's always a time to pass that baton. Years ago, I created a mentoring program for the city of Portland, and it even included reverse mentoring, where the younger employees would mentor the older employees, on their views on management, right? Because there's always things we can learn from that generation. I'm so glad that I have the mindset where we're creating policies or programs that we have diverse ages, diverse abilities at the table, making it all happen. So that true collaboration.
Sure. And yet that program that you mentioned in Portland, what were some of the issues that came up with that?
There was really none. It took a while for me to convince people about, how important I thought it would be. I've always thought way ahead of time, and sometimes that can be a detriment because people don't get it. But after they looked into it, and they could see that a lot of those employees had been there for 20, 30 years. They've been doing the same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That kind of mentality. And so to hear this other aspect, willingly listen to them and start changing some of the process that you're doing to help work with them and be more in tune with the times. So yeah, it came across very well.
Thank you, Deena. That's encouraging to hear. Now, moving on to a thing that I think is very timely. Of course, we're all in this pandemic right now. A lot of people, I know a lot of personal connections of mine who are feeling a bit discouraged that they're not able to go and do in-person internships, go and do networking experiences and stuff. How does someone put their best foot forward when they're at home, maybe in the middle of nowhere?
Wow. Well, I'm going to take a stab at that. I believe in seasons of life. I believe in time. I also think that I don't think there's any time that's wasted. I know that everybody wants to get back involved. We want to get back together. We want to shake hands and hug more. And I'm looking forward to that because I'm a hugger. But I also know that if that time does not present itself necessarily for me now, then maybe there's some more preparation I need to do. And that's what I tell myself, although sometimes that may not be all convincing, but I'm using this opportunity like I've never met any of you personally, even my dear friend Angela Valentine, whom I've known for 3 years. But I just feel that this opportunity allows us a chance to be authentic and to be real. And until that time presents itself again, where we can get out and be about among each other. So I guess the best thing I can do is, just tell people, there are seasons. And if you're not in that season where you are in person, then just continue to prepare yourself because that season will come again.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for that. Angela, what's your take on that?
There's always an opportunity to bring your best self to the occasion, whether it's behind a Zoom screen or in person. Sometimes we just have to take the initiative to seek out those opportunities. right? Opportunities didn't go anywhere per se. They may have changed in form, but find that form, find that way to continue to present your best self, right? Because there's always a way to do that. And the platforms and the technology, that's why all this technology is so important, because now everything is shifted from in person to technology, right? And how to maneuver that. How do you come on screen with an interview? How do you present your best self, for a job interview, via Zoom? Learn those skills. The skills are there. There are platforms that will teach you these skills, and you just have to take advantage of that and still just move forward with what you can.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Angela. Angela, for that one. And Deena, how do you see that from your lens? What, in terms of, I've noticed that you post a lot of things on LinkedIn, you share a lot of articles on social media. So how can those be leveraged to help?
Well, and we're talking about our youth and getting internships and all, right? And a lot of because we have students who are now in college that have been with iUrban Teen for years, and they're getting internships, virtual internships. And unfortunately, it's not like exactly how we want it, because we're so communal, as a people. We love to collaborate. We love to break bread. We love to look at each other across a table, so they're getting used to that. We kind of help them prepare for their video sessions. A lot of our students actually teach classes, on our platform. So we get them ready by practice. So by the time they have to do those digital interviews, they're prepared for them. I just keep telling them practice. In fact, we're creating, a lot of our students create our social media items as well. So they're ready. I'm just tired of all this virtual stuff.
Same retweet on that. I feel that. When you look back we talked about students, when you all look back at your younger self, what advice would you have to give? And Joyce, have you answer that one first?
Oh, wow. What a question. I guess I would tell myself, don't be so afraid, Joyce, not to push through, not to let your light shine, because you are remarkable. Don't be don't be pushed aside so easily. And just to, where I am now, it's just by the grace of God that, I've made some of the accomplishments that I've made is strictly by the grace of God. So I guess from my younger self to me now is, just continue to let your light shine, and don't be afraid to do that. And if people are intimidated by that, then so be it, but let your light shine.
I love that. So be it. Keep it moving. Angela?
I would say trust the process. I feel like coming up, I was a little girl. I tell my story from time to time when I get an opportunity, but I was raised by my grandparents. My father died in Vietnam in war, and I was 6 months old, and my grandparents committed to take me and raise me. So there was a lot of things that they could not help me with homework because my grandfather had a 3rd grade education. My grandmother had an 8th grade education, but they were business owners and respectable people in the community, but they could not help me with homework, right? So there were things that I was blessed, opportunities that I don't know how, but except by the grace of God. But I got through that. I got through college somehow, and all expenses paid. I didn't owe anything leaving college. I got a wonderful job, an internship with a global telecom that I worked all my career. And I mean, there were people in my life. There were mentors looking out for me and kind of, maneuvering some things and giving me advice and helping me along the way when my grandparents couldn't. So I just felt like, coming up as a young girl, I really wasn't sure about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and, who's going to help me. I'm out here kind of alone. But, my community, I guess that's the best way to put it. My community was there and they were around me. And because of that, and having those mentors, having those people that, would tell me about opportunities and me putting my best foot forward, that allowed me to accomplish some things by the grace of God that I've accomplished today. And so looking back now, I could just say, just trust the process, almost like God's got you, right?
Yeah.
So that would be what I'd say, to my younger self.
And it
Yeah.
definitely takes a village. Deena?
Yes.
Yeah, it does take a village. But I would tell my younger self, continue to be uniquely you. I was always different. And I would, a lot of times I would try to fit in. But that book from Dr. Seuss came to mind, or a saying, it said, why fit in when you were meant to stand out?
Yeah.
Right. So I have to keep remembering that I am uniquely who I am, flaws, brilliance, all of that makes this mosaic of who I am. And so I wish I was more comfortable with that space earlier on in my teens and in my 20s. The only thing I felt was not being able to fit in, you know. And so I really encourage these youth to be uniquely who you are and be proud of who you are. Don't try to always fit in. The right people, the right tribe will find you. The
That's
other
golden.
Yeah, the other things that I wish I would have done earlier was I wish I would have honored and known about the gift of mentorship. I would have seeked out the right mentors to be around me. I have them now in my old head age, but I continue to have mentors all around me, because I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit that. And I trust their judgment, and the things that I should and should not do. But I wish I had that earlier on, because I think someone would have saw that uniqueness in me earlier and knew that I was an entrepreneur, because I didn't turn into this world of entrepreneurialism till after 50.
Wow. Well, so it's never too late. Really, that's a standout point. For sure. And going back to something that Joyce shared, or I'm sorry, Angela shared, you were talking about the education in your family. And, a lot of people I think perceptions have changed over the years in terms of the importance of a college education and going to college. I want to kick it off with you, Joyce, since you mentioned that point about education within your family. How important is it in today's time? Is it still education? A college is not for everyone, or is it becoming more important?
Are you asking specifically about college, or how important is education? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes. How important is college in today's landscape? Is it still, I guess, from your view as a homeschool advocate too, as well?
I definitely think college is very important. Although a few of my children did not graduate from college. About 4 of them did. The others did not. But they started their own businesses, and they are inventors and creators. So, but yeah, I still think college is very important. I had a couple of years of college, and I have relationships as an organization. We form relationships with a lot of colleges across the country, and including the Ivy League colleges and the HBCU colleges, simply because we want to give our children every opportunity to be the best that they can be. I believe that, that's a part of what the National Black Home Educators, that's a part of what we do in our showcasing Black excellence, is giving children the opportunity to go to college. Not saying that that's something they would choose to do, but I think they need to have that opportunity. So yes, I think it's still very important that we, put it out there. It just all depends on the college that you're going to. But yes, I think it's still a very important part of a full educational experience for our children.
Certainly, when you said the colleges that people are going through, it makes me think about when people have all these student loans and they're like, did I make the right choice to go to college, or they have to pay the bill?
Well, you know what? There's scholarships out there available for children to go to college. Some children, I have a friend of mine who worked, and she got every scholarship, even if the scholarship was $350, she got it. And, by the grace of God, our children were able to go to college, and were able to skip that part of student loans, and were able to get the scholarship. So, there's so many ways you can do that through standardized testing. There are many ways that you can get scholarships. So college is affordable. But yes, I still think it's very important. But I also think it's important if a child wants to, create their own life. I have one of my children that's created her own business, and it's a very thriving business. And I also have a son that's done the same thing. So I think what homeschooling has done is is shown children that their lives can be tailored and customized and strategic just for them, to be creative just for them, and they can do the things that they love to do, and it be a lucrative business for them. So, and it's not just my family. There's so many families out there who have homeschooled, that where the children have created their own businesses, and very, very successful businesses.
Certainly, Joyce. Thank you so much for that. And Deena, along that lines of creating your own business, I know that you founded your own organization. And how do people move past fear? I know that gets a lot of people gets a lot of people stuck.
It does, and I'm one of those kind that I don't buy into the fear thing. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I just do it anyway. But now I did, and I want to kind of follow up on something Joyce was saying about colleges. We really encourage our youth, especially our male youth, to take that college path, because that's something they can't take away from you. Even though they have all the technology certificates and everything for all of them, we really encourage, especially our boys, especially our Black boys, get that paper, right? Because they always will put some kind of barrier in front of you, but they cannot take that education away. So, but anyway, with starting your own business, when I kind of fell into the role of being an entrepreneur, and again, those paths that Angela was talking about, trust the process. I was working at the city of Portland. My mother, who lived with me, was diagnosed with dementia. And so I had to make a decision. Do I stay home and take care of my mother? And I was going back and forth. And someone sent me an email, and in the signature block, it said, after considering all the ways to fail, I finally took the leap of faith and found myself flying. To me, that was a message. So
it's amazing.
I stopped. I started my own business, and because I was there at home taking care of my mom, rest her soul. She passed away suddenly in 2010. The day after I received my first award from my business, the Medweek Minority Business of the Year Award. Yeah, it was kind of traumatizing that she passed away suddenly the next day, but she saw me get that award, and that's something.
She was so proud.
Oh yeah, she was, and I was so proud to have her see it. But I say that to say, sometimes you get pushed into your path, and I felt like I was kind of pushed into my path, and what a blessing it's been.
Truly, truly. Thank you so much for that really very thoughtful answer. And I just want a programming note. We did lose the feed for Joyce, but hopefully our tech team is working on it to get her back. And in the meantime, we have a YouTube question. We got Joyce back. Welcome back,
Yay.
Joyce.
The weather here is crazy.
Oh, yeah, like it is in so many parts of the country. We got a YouTube question for any panelists. They're writing in, and thank you so much for this wonderful question. It says, how do you see the future of work and its impact specifically in the Black community? So Deena just finished answering a question. Joyce, let's have you hop in on that one.
Oh, goodness. I think you're going to see more Black-owned businesses like never before. One of the things that I've been blessed to see is I'm a part of a group called Black Girls Grow Gardens. Black Girls Grow Gardens. And I have seen us go back to our organic roots. I'm a farm girl. I was had the privilege of going and visiting my grandparents in the country for years and years during my childhood. And so I'm seeing more and more young girls, including some of my own daughters, just get involved in growing their own food. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm also seeing lots of businesses, just graphics, computer graphics. So I think we're going to see a lot of local Black-owned businesses, especially among our young people.
And as we see those businesses popping up and those ideas continuing to generate, a problem that I've covered a lot is definitely this access to venture capital and to funding. How do we get funding when maybe you can't go to dad and get $100,000 loan or whatever the case may be? How do we get that funding?
Oh, it's tough.
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
It's tough. You have to be very vocal. You have to be that squeaky wheel in the room, and you got to ask for what you want and keep asking for what you want. I just saw there there was an article in in a publication called GeekWire where they were showing that Amazon Amazon had given Code.org a $15.5 million grant to create culturally specific content. And when I saw that, I was like, here we go again. So I called Amazon and I asked them, did you guys do your research to see if there are any Black-led organizations that already do this work and have the content already developed? You know, even if with a portion of that money, it would really help us thrive. You know, so I call people out on it when I see it. The person that wrote the story ended up writing a story on us and highlighted how Amazon had given this other organization that already has millions another $15.5 million. So we have to continually be that squeaky wheel. We have to make sure that we get ourselves in front of those venture capitalists, especially now. Now is our time. You know, since right now we are the flavor of the month, we have to make sure, yeah, we are. You know, we're going to have to ride that pony as long as we can.
Certainly, and
I
Angela,
totally
from your definitely, Angela, from your perspective of bridging tech divides.
On bridging the tech divide?
Yes, and getting that funding, your experience with that.
Yes. Well, you know, with bridging that, there are opportunities for us, as Deena was saying, but bridging that divide, I mean, it's something that we're going to all have to take the initiative for. So one of the things that I think about it, I saw one of the questions further down, it may kind of like parlay into that as well. But one of the things we're going to have to learn to do, even as business owners, since we're talking about businesses, building that business, finding the funding, but also with everything that we're talking about, I think there is a deep layer of technology that's over all of this. So even when you get that business and it's up and running, and maybe it's brick and mortar and it's thriving, there's still going to have to be a layer of digital component, getting your business online, learning how to reach your customers online. How are you ranking in the search results for your particular industry? So I think we really need to, as we're going into these spaces and into these careers, we really have to be cognizant of the technology piece of this. It's wonderful to be skilled in our craft, but we have to layer on the knowledge of technology in anything that we do. So I think that's going to help bridge that divide.
Thank you so much. And tech has been a big point of our conversation tonight. And that falls into a question that we're getting from a viewer saying, what are some ways to get homeschooling started with one's children? So we'll send that over to Joyce, especially through the lens of maybe not having access to, technology.
Well, definitely there are state homeschool organizations and just about everywhere. I would encourage families, if you want to begin homeschooling, visit the National Black Home Educators. Our web address is www.nbhe.net. I encourage you to visit the website. There's on that website is a getting started venue. It's like a walkthrough on actually how to get started. So I would encourage you to check out your state organization, check out your Department of Education in your state and see what their rules and regulations are for notifying them that you are interested in homeschooling your child. A lot of parents think that they have to get permission from the local school board or from the local public school, but you really don't have to do that. You go directly to your state organization and see if there's a state, like if you live in the state of Louisiana, go to Homeschooling in Louisiana and find out what the legalities are for homeschooling your child. And like I said, go to the website. It's a whole lot to go into, but go to the website and check out that getting started resource information. And that kind of lays everything step by step on how to get started in homeschooling.
Thank you so much for that resource. And we also got another question coming in from our YouTube viewer, and encourage everyone to continue asking questions using the hashtag MOBE Mondays. That's MOBE Mondays. YouTube question saying, for Angela, talk to us about the Google programs for workforce development.
Good topic. one of the things I appreciate about Google is they want to make the world's information accessible to absolutely everyone. And we've spoken a little bit about Google for Education, but also there's this program called Grow with Google. I encourage everyone to research, do a Google search for Grow with Google. That is Google's arm where they reach into the community and they help workers that are looking for jobs. They help teachers and with the digital component. They're helping veterans. There are many segments of the community that they're reaching out into and providing free technical training for these groups. So pretty much you can find something there that is going to enhance your knowledge of technology. These programs, you can implement them into your groups, your organizations as well. It's just a plethora of wonderful free resources for the workforce. We're all going to be at a point where we need to just reskill, upskill. Google is doing a phenomenal job of getting those just computer literacy skills, those remote working skills, all those things that we, even a little coding that's out there right now, that they are offering free courses on that Grow with Google platform. So that's one resource that I would strongly recommend.
Do they
That's
also
a great point.
have certifications?
Yes, certifications as well. They're working with the company called Coursera, who does the online courses, and they just released 4 brand new certifications for the workforce: data analytics, project management. There are a couple of others that I just escaped me, but they're on that Grow with Google platform as well, where you can go on the platform and take a course in about 6 months, have a certification in that field of study, and they will help you secure jobs with companies that are looking for those tech skills. So it's a phenomenal program. It's a Google certification program. And that's an alternative to, you had asked the question earlier, Donnie, about the 4-year degree. And that's a wonderful pathway, but that may not be for everyone. Some people may need to kind of get into the market a little bit quicker than a 4-year degree. So there are wonderful boot camps that are available now. There are nano degrees, micro credentialing, just to get you up to speed with that tech skill where you can become hired at an entry-level position at companies and then take it from there. So there are options more now than ever, especially since the pandemic, that are really becoming available.
Certainly. Thanks for that, Angela. And as I think about these opportunities that you mentioned, and you talked about things like data analytics and, technology and things like that, what would you say to someone who's afraid to, they hear data and they go, oh my God, that's not something that, they may have been exposed to before?
Yeah, you're thinking, oh, technology, I want to pull my hair out, right? No. Right. But with some of these platforms, they make it so easy for anyone to come in and learn the skills. They say you need no prior experience, especially with these Google certifications. You don't need any prior experience. And my experience has been, even with the people that I've referred to the programs, once they get inside and they understand technology and how to use it and how it's on their level, they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I took this opportunity. It causes you to see technology in a different light. It's not so way up there and woohoo, you have to have, be a mastermind to get into the field. Not anymore. That playing field is really being leveled right now. So if you're remotely interested, just take one of these programs, 6 months of your time, or if you don't like it, drop out and try something else, switch the program, but at least give it a shot, because I think you'll find it very intriguing and interesting, maybe on a level that you hadn't imagined before you tried it. So,
another thing I want to add too is that to let everyone know, you can still work for major tech companies without being a techie, right? These companies have HR roles, they have customer service roles, they have finance roles, they have all of those different roles within that tech organization. And if you are a creative and you want to get into tech, think about being a UX, UI person, right? Is that user-friendly how does that user see this program, the software program, from an outside point of view? So there's so many other ways to do this without being a data scientist or even a coder.
Right.
Certainly. And then leaders say, we won't see change overnight. And oftentimes I ask myself, well, how many nights will it take? How many times are we going to hear that? So we've been talking about that for quite some time now. What's going on? How long is it going to take?
I think that we need to put this in warp speed. I think Generation Z is going to make that happen in warp speed a lot faster than we realize it. And you still have look what happened in Georgia with the voter suppression that just happened. You're still going to have people that are going to create barriers and try to turn movements back around. But I think this next generation is going to push through all of that, so that all of those, it's going to happen. I think that we will see some changes in our lifetime.
That's encouraging. Joyce, what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely some changes, because there are those of us who are considered old school, but yet and still we see the value in things changing, like I said earlier about African American curriculum. When you think about language, grammar, rarely do you see a sentence that really relates to the culture of African American. And so that's where we're working now, the National Black Home Educators, at creating curriculum that actually speaks to African Americans as well as everyone else. Because when I began teaching my children, I was excited to learn about Little House on the Prairie or Anna Green Gables, but I'm just excited to learn about Addie and her story too, and how she, left her and moved north, and she and her family. So those are some of the great books, but also, just creating curriculum. So yes, in answer to your question, I do see where things will change, especially where curriculum is concerned, that inspires or give the whole African American experience. So yes.
Thank you. And Angela, on that question too, over the past few years, have you seen more progression in that realm?
I guess it depends on where you're looking and how you're looking. I think my question would be, how are we each contributing to the issue, right? And resolving the issue. We look at our past generation and we know the strides that they made. And we look at what some others are doing right now in our present generation. But what are we doing? That's something I always ask myself. And I asked my husband, I said, our grandchildren, when they grow up, when they ask Mom and Dad, what did you do in this era? Or what did you do to move this forward? What would we have to say? How involved did each of us get? I mean, we watch the TV and we see what's going on and we all have an opinion, and maybe, we vote. But what do we really do? What outside of that do we do to really move the issue? I think it's going to take all of us, and find your spot, find your place, and do something to move all of us forward. Teach a kid, buy him a computer, send him to a tech class, do something to contribute to move us all forward. I think we'll get there just a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for that. And I want to remind everybody who's tuning in, please go ahead and get your questions in. We don't have much time left, so if you have any more questions for our Rockstar panel, be sure to submit them before we wrap things up. I always love to do a rapid fire round. And one of the things I want to ask you, let's start off with Deena first. Give me in one, the hot seat. Give me one word for your hope in the year ahead.
One word.
One word. The year ahead, progression.
One word. Progression. Great. Thank you. Joyce?
Confidence.
Thank you. Good. Angela?
Courage.
Courage. That is so important.
Courage.
Thank you. And I really would be, I love all those responses. Those are definitely noted. I'd be remiss being on a panel, of course, not talking about opportunities at the company that I work with, Bloomberg. It's been one of the things that you all talked about is definitely not being afraid to try new things. And that's really how I got my start here. I didn't imagine working in financial news or financial journalism, but started as an intern. So really want to encourage everyone who is tuning in to really take advantage of those similar opportunities. You can go to bloombergcareers.com. Also be sure to check out our Bloomberg Business Week show, which I create content for. We have content on the worlds of business, finance, technology, education, politics, and medicine. So many different areas. You can hear those conversations on our Bloomberg Business Week podcast, and you can also hear it live on our show. So we are at time. If there's no more questions, I really want to thank all of our wonderful panelists. Angela Valentine, she's founder of ADV Scholars. Yes, thank you so much. You can follow her on Twitter at ADV Scholars. Also got Deena Pierott, the Deena Pierott, founder, iUrban Teen and founding member of Black Women in STEM. You can follow her at Deena Pierott on Twitter as well. And our thanks so much to Joyce Burges. She's the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of the National Black Home Educator. So you can also check her out on Facebook by going to Joyce Burges Homeschool. You all were amazing. I really thank you so much, and thank MOBE so much for the invitation to host this panel. It's truly been an honor, and I'll now hand it back over to someone who's really been integral in making all of the magic behind the scenes happen. One of our producers, we got Raul Jackson, and he's got a special announcement.
Thank you. MOBE will present its one-day MOBE Symposium, Leveraging Our Power, Accelerating Our Success, virtually Friday, April 23rd from 11 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which will provide attendees with business building information in technology, marketing, and entertainment industries. Our major sponsors are BET, AARP, and P&G. The day's program will feature a fireside conversation between MOBE Chairman Curtis Simons and TV1 Clio TV President Michelle Rice. Panel discussions on current and future trends of streaming in film and television. The Black Awakening panel, curated by BET, continued representation and ownership of media outlets by Black Americans, physical and online opportunities in retail, and a roundtable moderated by Rashawn McDonald, featuring leaders of successful brands owned by entertainment moguls. The registration link will be posted on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages, and on our website, mobesymposium.com. Please follow us for updates. Also, please go to the MOBE Symposium at YouTube channel and subscribe to MOBE. And I will turn it over to Curtis Simons, our chairman.
Thank you, Raul. I want to first of all thank this illustrious panel of Joyce, Deena, and Angela. And Donnie, you did a great job moderating it. I mean, you kept it right in motion. I didn't realize you need to stop at 8. I thought you were going to continue to roll with it. I had a good feeling on it. But I just want to thank you, and really want to thank all of you, because one who has grown up with a mother who taught 40 years in HBCU school on the campus of Central State University in Ohio, the one understatement in the world is the value of teachers and mentorship. And to me, it should be the most highest paid job in America, because none of us would be successful without that type of leadership. I thought you guys tonight covered a lot of good topics. I thought you did a great job talking about the digital divide, but there was a few key points that I wanted to just bring out that I thought was very important. Angela brought a great point up when she talked about best self. I mean, that to me is a branding that we need to take out on the street and really brand harder, because a lot of people don't understand that best self. And then, Deena, you made a great point about the mentoring. Older is listening to the younger. I'm 65 years old, and I love listening to younger people today, because every day I feel like you have to learn. You never know enough. So if you don't open your mind and your creativity to these folks, you won't learn anything. And I thought, Joyce, I love the line you gave, and I'm going to put this line in somewhere where you said, let your light shine. I think that's a great line in today's world, because I think one of the problems we have, especially in our culture, is that we don't know how to let ourselves shine. We tend to take the back seat too much and not allow ourselves to really show the brightness. As Donnie was talking about how he came from an intern now in corporate America. Because when you get a seat at the table, you've got to take advantage of that seat at the table, because there's not a lot of opportunity to come by on an everyday basis. So you've got to let that light shine, and you got to let them know where you're at. And the one thing I want to leave everybody today, because of my 35 years in the business community, corporate American media, the one thing that I have learned over time is that change is happening. Change is happening. We got to continue to push it. And as Deena said, you got to bring it out front, not be away to don't walk away from it. Talk about it, get it in front of people, understand it, and make them line up the way they're supposed to line up. So I just want to say to this panel tonight, I'm proud of you. It's another great MOBE Monday panel. Thank you, audience, for being here tonight. And please, please, as Rael was just telling you, come to our MOBE virtual symposium. It's free. It's going to be a great panel. Please spread the word for us. And registration opens up tomorrow. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night.